Okay, so once you've got your basics ready, you need to start thinking about your team and creating a team that works around the strategy you're going to build. Now, really key to this is first of all define the functions and not the roles for your content strategy. So don't think about the people you've already got in terms of what they do or what their job title is. Think about what you're going to need to happen in terms of creation and implementation and editing and amplification and all those things, and define the roles without thinking about people. Later you can fit the people to the roles rather than the other way around. The sort of things I'm talking about, you're going to need people for strategy and planning. You're going to need writers and creators, and editors and proofers. And editors should always be different to the writer or the creator and the proofer, etc. Although one person could do both roles, but you'd need someone different to edit than has written. You will need coordinators and administrators, people to do promotion and amplification, as I said. And what is really key as well is to try and create a cross-functional driving team. So when I was talking about implementing a strategy that folds right across your business, you want to make sure that the team that actually runs the strategy comes from various parts of the business. Now, it may be that you're not going to roll this out across your whole business and it really is going to be a marketing thing. That's fine, but make sure there's somebody from the creative part, from the web team, from the e-commerce team, from the Marcoms team, etc. Make sure that you've got people on there who have all got a stake in this strategy. In terms of the content and your strategic content structure internally, as I say, content audit, content calendar. Now, the content calendar needs to be a living plan, the what, who, when, why, and wheres. Break it down by topic, audience, channel, and timing, and rework or repurpose existing content. Don't think that once content's done, it's finished. You can always take that and do something else with it. In terms of breaking down what sort of content you need to create, think about evergreen stuff. So this is content that can go on your site or go wherever you're going to put it, and it will be there for forever, and it'll still be as relevant, maybe with the odd tweak every year or so. But 70% of what you do should be evergreen. It should be content that can just last and last and last, so you're not having to constantly go back. Then 20% should be time or event or campaign related topics, and reactive just 10%, and things like newsjacking, so spotting what's going on in the news that day and jumping straight on it. That has to be immediate. You can't waste, you can't jump on a piece of news that was yesterday the day after. You've got to do that very, very quickly. And as I said before, content management system, measurement and analysis. So you've kind of defined what you want to do. You need to really define your audiences, and we've already talked a little bit about this. So this is how you go about that. You really don't want to be afraid to filter out customers you don't want. I think everybody, certainly in the travel industry, and I'm guessing probably every other industry, is as guilty of this as anybody else, is that you try and capture as many people as you can, and you try where you can to not put people off by the messages that you're putting out there. Certainly in travel, in small group travel, for instance, a lot of companies are a bit wary and don't advertise the fact that they're a small group and you're going to join. If you're a solo traveler, you're going to join a group of people you've never met before, some of whom you may like and some of whom you may not. But it's really worth, with a proper content strategy, to being completely honest about what you are, who you are, and what you offer. Now, if what you offer doesn't resonate with your audience, then you've got to rethink either your audience or what you're offering. But be honest about it, and if people don't like it, that's fine. There are plenty of other people out there. Be honest and filter out the people you don't want, because they're of no value to you and they just waste your time. Create personas. This is really key as well. If it certainly for understanding of the type of people that you're targeting for your internal teams and agents and sales and everybody across the business. Lonely Planet used to be really good. There's in their office in London. in their canteen, they used to have big posters up on the wall with their various customer types, and it just breaks down and gives them sort of a photo of the type of people they are. It talks about where they live, what they drive, what they read, what their politics might be, what sort of food they like, all of these things. So you're starting to create a real person as opposed to just a bunch of data on a sheet. Airbnb and neighborhoods, really, really good at this. Well, actually, a couple of things. Firstly, Airbnb neighborhoods is an example of great content strategy in itself. They're giving away lots of free information about the neighborhoods in which their rentals sit. So that's a great thing. But they've also tagged, as you can see here, subculture, historic beginnings, nightlife, yummy mummies. So they're really, really targeted exactly. They know exactly who it is they're going for. They've created a persona, obviously, of the yummy mummy, and that's who they're going for with this particular piece of content. Coming up with ideas. So this is important, as I say, to get this right, and there is some basis to this as well, keyword research, etc. But there are many different ways of coming up with ideas, and these are just a few. So first of all, you really need to create an ideas repository, so somewhere where all the ideas you come up with can be stored and, importantly, accessed by pretty much anybody in the team, because you don't know where the next spark's going to come from. Have what used to be called brainstorming, these days is called somewhat naffly, but yeah, fair enough, ideation sessions, and all those usual rules about no idea is a bad idea, etc. You don't have to have great big long sort of 3-4 hour sessions. These can be just 10-minute, 15-minute, half an hour sessions if you really want to. Just snatch some time and just grab some people and chuck them in a room and ask for some ideas. Or just do it at their desk, get them when they're unprepared. Sometimes a great way of doing things. Internal, that sort of follows on from that. Make sure you talk to everybody within the business, because the lady on reception, or the girl in the post room, or the finance director may all have good ideas, because they all will have touch points with the customer. They will understand, they will have their own understandings of who the customers are and what their motivations are. So you may get some gems of ideas from people around the business. Always be listening, goes without saying. Listen to the news, listen to what's going on, check out social media, look at your competitors, and just see what's going on, and grab ideas, and you can always adapt them to your own needs. Competitors, I just said, it's really, really important that you know what they're doing, not to copy them, but to ensure that you're being different from them. But it may be sometimes that they come up with a really great idea and you think, actually we could use that, but twist it to your own use. So make sure it's still unique when you use it. Keyword research is should really be the first one on here, but it should form the basis for an awful lot of what you do, because these days the first thing people want to do when they want to find a new product or a holiday, etc., or travel, is they go to Google and they type something in. You need to know what it is they're typing in, and how that relates to your product or your business, and you need to make sure that you've got content for all of those search terms, and on your website that you've got H1 tags, and they're all relevant, and so people are much more likely to find you when they do those searches. So wherever they're searching, if they go onto YouTube and do a search, make sure you've got videos on there that are related to the key word or key search terms that people are using. Customer queries and questions, another good one. Yeah, check your sales guys and your reservations people, and just find out what people are asking. And if people are asking questions, the answers to which you don't have on your website at the moment, make sure you get those answers up there as soon as you possibly can. Look outside your industry, and as I say, I'll have some case studies of companies outside of travel. Certainly, you may be outside of travel yourselves already, but don't be restricted to your own industry. Look at something that's so different from what you do that you'd think there was no relevance at all. But those ideas, those kernels of ideas, can come from pretty much anywhere. Do your segment affinity and in-market research, and those various tools to this. Google is obviously is a good one, but find out what the people that are coming to your site, or the customers that you have, or the people that you're targeting, find out what else they're interested in. Find out what sort of segments they're interested in. When they're looking at your website, what do they look at next? Where do they go next? And do all that sort of thing. And it may be completely unrelated to what you actually do. Now, this is something that I did on a client, Pride of Britain Hotels. This is obviously a hotel group, nice hotels in the UK, very, very beautiful places. And they just wanted to build their audience. And what we did some affinity and segmented in market research, and we found out that a lot of their audience were also very interested in home decor and in gardening and making their own nests, if you like. So we came up with a strategy of creating a lot of content based around just interior design and garden design and food and that sort of thing. So it wasn't selling hotels. It wasn't saying to them, come and join our website, join our list. It was just putting some useful, really great content out there. We found journalists who were specialist writers, and for actually not that much money, sort of, £200 or £300, you can get a nice little article written specifically by somebody who completely understands that topic. So the wallpapers topic there, or the best home accessories, etc. So look in those magazines and find the writers and approach them. Most of them these days are freelance, and most of them will be more than happy to write a little bit for you, and it will come from an authoritative point of view. And this strategy worked really well. It started bringing new audience to Pride Britain Hotels. And aggregation and curation. Don't be afraid of borrowing, taking from elsewhere and using other people's content. Contrary to popular belief, Google will not penalize you as long as you adhere to some basic rules. Now, Skift are very good at curating content. A lot of what they do is taking reports and news articles from elsewhere and putting them on their website. What they do, though, is they add the Skift take. Well, there's two things they do. They add the Skift take, but they also retitled the piece. So as far as Google's concerned, okay, there's a new title, they've added their own piece of content to it, and then the other thing they do is credit and provide a link to the original article, so that it's completely transparent. But Google will still recognize that that Skift is on the ball and is a place to go for content about that particular topic. So it's well worth looking at, because it can save you a lot of time, and you can still provide that content for people as long as you're really clear. We didn't write this, but we thought you'd be interested. Here's what we think about it. Here's a link to the original. This is really, really good, and something I think everybody should copy is follow this storyline. Again, this is Skift, is putting a link on there so that every time they now put up a topic that's related to the piece that you've just read, you can sign in. So you become a micro segment of their audience, if you like, or you become one of those people in that micro segment. You may be in several. And I do this myself, so I follow several sort of strands of particular topics or themes on Skift, and every time there's an update or a new piece of content, they flick me an email or an alert pops up, and I can read what's new. And it's a great little tool, because then I don't have to go searching on Skift every time, every week, every day, whatever. I can just wait and see what comes through. And LinkedIn have started doing this as well. You've probably seen the daily rundowns they do now. It's exactly the same thing. It's aggregated, curated content, and they put their own little thing on it. But at least it shows that they are in the business of being in business, if you like. So they're bringing you information from around the internet. So content creation. Figure out who your audience are and set your goals. So work out who the content's for, what's the goal for each piece, how do you want the people who read it or view it or see it or whatever, how do you want them to feel, and how do you want them to act? Obviously really key. And then how does that goal feed into the overall strategic marketing and business goals? And again, going back to that, the funnel and the matrix, I think, are really good ways of working out where this fits in your overall strategy. Format is really key as well. Video may not be the best way of doing everything, although it's becoming hugely much more important these days. And I think, you know, as years go by, it's going to become more and more as people become lazier and lazier essentially and don't want to read anything anymore. But certainly video and images are really key. But it may be that it's a topic that needs copy, that you need to get down on writing in sort of various graphs and things like that. So think about what is the best format. And then after that, where is your audience most likely to be? So which channel is going to work the best? Is it going to be social media? Is it going to be your e-newsletter? Is it going to be a magazine if you produce one? If you've got shops, is it going to be in your shop window? You know, think about where that audience is likely to be in terms of their part in the customer journey. Research, create and edit, as I said, and going back, the editor should always be a different person from the creator. In terms of SEO, don't keyword stuff. It's really tempting to do this, knowing that you've done your keyword research and you know that a lot of people search for one particular term, and then try and fit it into a piece time and time again. Don't overdo it. Do it 3 or 4 times in one piece, and that's enough. Make sure it's tagged and you've got it as H1 or H2 tags, so that Google knows. But don't overdo it. Google is very good now at working out the semantics of a certain term. So as long as you've got the search term in there itself 2 or 3 times, then you can use variations of it elsewhere in your written piece. But if you start to overdo it, Google will immediately know that you are trying to game the system, and it becomes far less interesting to read and far less engaging. So you'll lose your audience too. There are a number of free tools around that you can use to help with creation and amplification. Everybody loves a free tool, and it all jump for joy there just thinking about it. In terms of music, a site called Free Music Archive is really good. I've used a few times, and there's loads of sort of composers. You know, creating your own music these days is a lot easier. So there's a lot of probably home composers just putting stuff up there, and there's actually some really good stuff well worth having a look at. Copyright free photos such as Unsplash and death-to-stock-photo.com, well worth looking at, and other images. So you can search images by color on tni.com, or search color by image on, never quite sure how to pronounce that, pictaculus.com, I think. So yeah, if you've got a design scheme and you want images for a certain color, then you can search for those there. So next, once you've done all this other stuff, you've created your team, you've got your content, you know exactly what you want to do with it. Now's the time to get it out there, to promote it, or amplification as it's known. And here's some interesting information if you're starting to worry about how you're going to get your content out there. This is from Co-Marketing Associates. 81% of all content discovery, so that people are finding content, 81% of the time it's through websites, emails and social media, and that is your website, your email and your social media channels, or theirs, I guess. So you don't have to worry about using highfalutin amplification and promotion services and other websites if you don't want to, which can be costly or complicated. If you're a small business, it may just be too much. So if 81% of your content discovery is through those things, then just use those. Just get used to it and start to build it up, and you'll build your audience slowly but surely. But other ways to get it out there. Think of influencers. So these are bloggers. It's that whole sort of scene has changed quite a bit from the old days. It used to be that every blogger was an influencer, but now there are a lot of people out there who are bloggers who may claim they're influencers, probably aren't, and you may have heard that a lot of people, even celebrities, have been buying likes. So do your research on those people and work out exactly how many followers they've got. But what's really key is check the engagement, see how many likes they're getting on their posts, how many views they're getting on their video, etc. Do your research really carefully on that. Comment marketing is always good, so just keep an eye out on this is mostly for trade really, but on articles, and if there's a chance to comment, and make sure you do, and make sure you say where you're from, etc. Guest posts, similar sort of thing. Just keep an eye out for opportunities to post something and get in touch with the editors and get something up there. PR is changed massively. It's far more online and about SEO, etc. now, and it's a great way of getting content out there. So if you've done your really nice piece of research, that may be a great story that you can push out to both offline and online news channels, for instance. Journalists love it if you do their job for them, and if you present it in a really nice way, packaged up and ready to go, they'll love you and they'll probably put it up too. Social media, as we've discussed, again, it's changing massively with data breaches, etc. recently, but it's still going to be always going to be a powerful thing. Think about, again, what your product or service is and where your audience is likely to be. My view is that Facebook for 35 pluses is great. Instagram for under 35s and up to probably 45, 50s is good. Twitter is more B2B, I think. It's become less consumer friendly, but do your own research. Have a look and see where your audience is, and if they're engaging and talking on Twitter, then absolutely fine, go for it. But use those channels, and it's still relatively cheap to promote content on those channels. But as I say, those are purely entertainment channels, really. So you need to, or entertainment or learning channels. So you need to put stuff on there that's going to be engaging and interesting and shareable. Other paid channels, you can PPC your content too, or do it through social media. Email marketing, as I've already said, is one of those key areas. There are syndication sites like Outbrain, Taboola, Simple Ridge, etc. that you can use, and those really start to ramp up what you're doing, but they can be complicated. You probably need to do a lot of testing on those, and pay for the results as well. So think about those carefully, but if you're new to it, then stick to what you know to start with. And as I say, your website, everything really online should be bringing people to your website, either to take them further down the journey through the website or getting them to sign up to a newsletter. And this brings us on to the building your database. So GDPR is coming in as I record this at the end of this week, 25th of May. It's changed a lot of things, so be really, really careful about how you're selling your sign-ups. If you ask people to sign up for a particular topic or for a particular reason, stick to it. Don't start to try sell them stuff. If you've asked them to sign up to a newsletter about interior design or about beaches in Bali, just give them that. You can always ask them if they want to hear about other things later, but don't try and overdo it, and don't try and breach that agreement that you've had with them right from the very start. Lloyds Bank is one that's overhauled its entire CRM strategy to focus on how-to content rather than product marketing, and that was as a result of GDPR. And other companies have deleted, I think there's a pub chain that deleted its entire database based on the fact that it just didn't know where half the data came from. So just clean it out. If you've got doubts, then get rid of it, because it's not worth trying to game the GDPR system. There are rules around it, or penalties that you can be charged 4% of your profit, or up to 200,000 euros or something, or maybe more. I wouldn't take those too seriously to start with. Certainly, if you're a smaller business and it's a small breach, but as time goes on, people will start to report, and there's been quite a bit about GDPR, so it's worth getting quality ahead of quantity. As I say, be clear what people are signing up for and absolutely stick to it. Don't tempted to sell to your content audience. They are expecting content to entertain, to inform, etc. Don't sell to them. Let them take themselves down that journey. You just provide the path that they need to take. Segment by interest or topic group, and that goes back to what I was saying about Skift and creating those micro segments. If you want to, and if you've got the capacity to do that, then brilliant. But certainly segment and make sure that those segments are really clear, and exactly what you're going to deliver is what you deliver in the end. Creating landing pages is really key. There are certain rules around landing pages which help them work so much better than if it's just a random page on your site with all the distractions that those have. There should be just one single clear action. There should be only one reason that somebody's come to a landing page for content, and that is to carry out the action that you want them to take. Generally that's to sign up to a newsletter, or it may be to buy something or whatever, but whatever it is, make that the only call to action on that page. The headline should be really compelling and relate to what you want them to do. Expanding sub-headlines, so you'd start to bring them into the content. Make sure your images are really good. As I say, there's plenty of great images out there now. Some of them are free, and if you can't afford your own photography, then use those, but make sure they are good quality. Don't start putting low-res stuff on your website, and try not to use as your key images the free stuff, because you'll find everybody else has done the same, and you immediately become homogeneous, and it's just noise again. So pay for your key images, get your budget out and get your wallet out and pay for decent images of your own. Make sure the call to action is really strong, it goes without saying, and offer some sort of value in return for signing up. So you're giving something away. It's going back to that sort of charity of the previous Venn diagram. So give them something, give them value, give them information, give them access to something, but make sure that it's clear. And avoid distractions and navigation. So this kind of is a little bit counterintuitive to a lot of e-commerce people, but get rid of your navigation on that page. If it's just a landing page, you don't want them thinking about where else can I go on this website. Just get them to do the thing that you've brought them there to do. Don't give them any other out apart from signing up to something. Use testimonials and advocates on that page, and make sure the sign up is really, really easy and clear. Don't ask for reams of information, just get a name and an email address. You can ask for more information later. This is about making it as easy as possible for them to sign up, even to the point of just ask for a first name and an email address. Don't even ask for a surname if it's two separate fields. If you can get away with just two fields on the page, name, email address, bang, it's done. People will be more than happy to do that generally. And make sure there's a method of contact on there as well. So this is one from Airbnb. This is a landing page. They have got a little bit of nav on there, but it's fairly minimal. It's really clear. Earn money as an Airbnb host. The buttons are there, and a little widget at the bottom there, what you could actually earn in the area that you're at. But there's a button, start hosting, so you're going. That's the action they want people to take on that particular page. This page, again, is very good. As you can see, all the navigation has been removed. It's clear what's going on. It's request more information. 3 boxes to fill in, but the phone number isn't mandatory, so it's not so bad. But it's really clear, and it's send me more info. And of course, as soon as you click, then you go through to the main website. So that's when you get the chance for those people to start looking around your website. Analysis and reporting. Again, key. Set your targets first. Don't start sort of thinking later down the line what you want people to do based on what's actually happening. Get them down on paper right at the very start. Nobody's going to beat you around the head if you get it wrong, and if you don't hit those targets, as long as you learn from them. And you learn why you didn't hit them, but get something down and start learning from it. Consider the funnel and the matrix, and where people are in that journey and where you want them to go next. Do the whole SMART thing, specific, measurable, attainable, all that sort of stuff, so that you know exactly what you're doing, and make sure it is achievable. It's not sort of out of the ballpark. And don't be afraid to fail. As I say, you only really learn from making mistakes or coming up short. And if you're going ahead with a new strategy, then you are more likely to fail than not to start with, unless you're really lucky and really intuitive with this stuff. But try things out. Try different things. Try and be different from everybody else, and just see what works. You never know. Worst thing you can do is succeed. And continuous review, going back to that circle, always be looking at what you've done. what the results were, what you can learn from, and how you can do it differently next time. Okay, so here's some samples and examples from other industry. GE Reports is a really nice site. GE is a fairly dry sort of industrial company, but they've got this great section on their website, which is GE Reports. Excuse me. So here's some samples of content strategies and landing pages, etc., from around different industries. GE Reports. So GE is a fairly dry industrial company, but they've got this portal that provides reports on all aspects of business, and it's really just quite interesting. Sometimes I just pop on there and to have a look at stuff, perspectives on business and leader insights and performance and all that sort of stuff, and it's really quite engaging, so it's worth having a look at. They get 5 million monthly visits, monthly visitors to this portal, which isn't bad for like I say, a fairly dry industrial company. ASOS marketplace. This is an example of doing something different and being brave. ASOS basically looked at their competition and realised that a lot of their competition were the little high street one-off, or one or two high street shops selling all sorts of vintage and one-off pieces of clothing. Something I don't understand, but it's all good stuff. Now, they've created this directory where you can go on and find all these little boutiques, and it means that they've created a bit of value for their customers, and they're actively promoting their competitors. They get 4 million monthly visits to this site. Now you can imagine that a large percentage of those people will then go on to the ASOS site itself, and probably a large percentage of those buy something from ASOS. So it's a clever way of thinking about your customer rather than just about selling your stuff. What do your customers want and need? What can we provide them that will be of value, that will help them like us better? Monster, the job website, they've got this area which is really at that sort of solving problem stage. Interview questions, average salary information, salary tips, that type of stuff. 22% of the unique visitors in 2016 entered the site through their content. So that's stuff that they've put out there, solving problems. People click through to Monster. And they got 96 million page views, up 18% in 2016 too. So again, just giving stuff away, giving knowledge away that people want is worth looking at. There we are, 4 million job searches, from up 18% from content pages. And American Express Open Forum, again another great little area for, I think, mostly for small business, SMEs and that sort of stuff. But again, it's just a nice portal. It is branded, but it's fairly minimal, and it's just nice articles about how to get your business going. 80 million monthly visits for that. I mean, that's incredible. If we can get a small percentage of that is doing well. Obviously, this is a global site, so you've got to think about that. But even so, you can see that companies are doing this stuff and doing it well. You don't have to do it to this scale, obviously, but if you can do it at all, then the chances are that you can start to build an audience that will become your customers later down the track. Southwest Airlines have done a whole bunch of stuff, and this kind of shows that content doesn't just have to be online. They've taken their content and it's offline as well, so they're using it right across everything, and you can see it's very well branded. And they use this this poster, which as you're getting on the plane, you'll see it on the walls of the air bridge, etc., which essentially positions their customer as the winner. You can see at the top there, and this is offline, but it's clever content. It's just positioning them as the cheapest, but the customer as the winner, and really sort of sucking it to a lot of their competitors too. So it's quite clever. And then the hashtag fees don't fly, which I guess has been used elsewhere, and even once you're on board, they've pushed this message of no hidden fees, etc. On the cups and bits and pieces on the plane. Here's a nice piece from Exodus Travels, actually, that I've been working with a little bit recently. They've created a lot of their own video content, but one thing they picked up on was that a lot of the people that travel with them are interested in food. So what they did was started to create, or curate, I should say, recipes from around the world, and they filmed some of these. And what's happened next is that they have actually got created a cookbook based on all these recipes, and that has now been published by one of the main big publishing houses. So they've really gone from online to offline in a nice way, and it's a lovely way to pull people in. I think that's going to be really successful. Also worth note is the Inca Trail Porter Project video that they've created, which is a lovely little story about a guy who went on an Exodus trip to do the Inca Trail, was so impressed by the porters that he wanted to go back and be a porter himself. He got in touch with Exodus, with the marketing director. She pulled some strings and made it happen, and they sent a cameraman along and they filmed it, and they've created this lovely film which really shows that Exodus is more than just a travel company sending people to places. It's truly invested in the people that do the job on the ground, and its customers. So it's a lovely film if you get a chance to have a look at it. So in summary, top tips. Create a strategy, not just a marketing campaign. It is more than all those little bits. It needs to be far more holistic than that. You don't need a big team necessarily. If you've got one, brilliant. If you're a small company with 20 or 30 people in the company, you don't need a massive team to do this. But define the functions that you're going to require for what you're going to do with your content strategy, and then work back with the people you've got, and maybe if you need one other person. Enable and empower your entire staff. So right across the business, make sure everybody's on board with this, because it's really important that at any customer touch point, and that could be the guy who's works in the warehouse and is down the pub, he needs to be invested in this too, because the way he talks about his company, his business, may have an impact. Make it really visible, and I'm talking internally. So stick ideas up, stick those personas up somewhere where people are going to see them. Stick ideas up on and boards on your intranet or where it happens to be, but make sure that people can access it and see what's going on. And start today. It's never too late to do this, and as I say, with GDPR coming in now, this is a great time to be getting stuck into content, because the old style of marketing is kind of going away, and it's now much more about engagement. It's about building audiences and taking them, or providing the path for them to find their own journey to where you want them to go. So thanks very much for listening. I hope it's been reasonably useful for you. What I hope to do next is to take parts of this sort of quite long and rambling in some places piece, and hone down on details. Probably video marketing and film marketing is going to be film content. It will be the next one. So keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, if you've got any questions or you want any advice yourself, please get in touch, paul@bondsfield.com. My number is there, or visit either the Bondsfield Marketing Content website or the Big Earth Digital. I'm involved in both, and I'm sure we can help you one way or another. Thank you very much for listening.